Listen, I'm going to tell you something that cost me millions to learn, and if you're smart, you'll let my mistakes be your teacher instead of repeating them yourself. You know what separates the man who makes money in the stock market from the man who loses it? It isn't intelligence. It isn't inside information. It isn't even capital, though that helps. No, the difference is simple, and it's something most men will never understand, no matter how many times the market teaches them the lesson. The difference is patience. I've made and lost 3 fortunes in my time. 3 times I've climbed to the top of the mountain, and 3 times I've fallen all the way back down. And every single time I lost it all, it wasn't because I didn't know what to do, it was because I couldn't sit still and wait for the right time to do it. See, the stock market is designed to transfer money from the impatient to the patient. That's all it is. It's a great big machine built for one purpose: to take money from those who can't control themselves and give it to those who can. And right now, at this very moment, 90% of traders out there are losing money, not because they're stupid, not because they don't understand charts or patterns or fundamentals. They're losing because they're committing the 7 deadly sins of impatience, and these sins are bleeding them dry one trade at a time. Let me tell you about these sins. I've committed every single one of them, and each time I did, the market made me pay. The first sin is trading without a reason. Most men in the market today aren't traders at all. They're gamblers dressed up in traders' clothing. They open their trading platform in the morning like a man walking into a casino, looking for action, any action, because sitting still makes them uncomfortable. I learned early in my career that there's a tremendous difference between trading and gambling. When you trade, you have a reason. You've studied the situation. You've seen something developing. You understand the odds, and more importantly, you understand when those odds are in your favor. But when you gamble, you're just pushing chips around because you're bored. You see a stock moving, and you think to yourself, maybe I should get in on that. No plan, no reason. Just action for action's sake. I remember a time in 1907 when I was sitting on a fortune. I'd read the market perfectly, positioned myself beautifully, and all I had to do was wait, but I couldn't do it. I saw some movement in Union Pacific, and even though I had no business being in that stock, even though it had nothing to do with my strategy, I jumped in, just for something to do. Cost me $100,000 in 3 days. $100,000 because I couldn't sit still. The market doesn't care about your boredom. It doesn't care that you feel like you should be doing something. The market only cares about one thing: whether you're right or wrong. And if you're trading without a reason, you're going to be wrong more often than you're right. The second sin is confusing movement with opportunity. Now here's something that trips up nearly every trader I've ever known. They see a stock moving, and they think that movement itself is a reason to trade. The stock goes up 5% in an hour, and they think, I've got to get in before I miss it. Or it drops 10%, and they think, this is my chance to buy the dip. But movement isn't opportunity. Movement is just movement. The question you should be asking isn't, is this stock moving? The question is, do I understand why it's moving? And is that reason likely to continue? I learned this lesson the hard way more times than I care to count. There were dozens of times I jumped into a stock because it was moving fast, only to watch it reverse the moment I got in. It was like the market was waiting for me to commit before it changed direction. And you know what? In a way, it was. Because when a stock moves fast, it attracts all the impatient money. All the traders who can't stand to miss out pile in at the same time. And once they're all in, there's nobody left to buy, and the move is over. The real opportunities, the ones that make you rich, they don't announce themselves with big, obvious movements. They develop slowly. They give you time to study them, time to position yourself, time to be right. But that takes patience, and patience is exactly what most traders don't have. The third sin is overtrading your capital. This one kills more traders than all the others combined. You take your capital, and instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity and putting your full force behind it, you chop it up into little pieces and spread it across a dozen different trades. You think you're being smart. You think you're diversifying, managing your risk. But what you're really doing is guaranteeing that even when you're right, you won't make enough money to matter. I learned early on that if you're going to make real money in the market, you need to put serious money behind your convictions when you know you're right, not guesses, not hunches. But when you've done the work and the opportunity is clear, you need to load up. But here's the problem. If you're constantly in the market, constantly making trades, you never have your full capital available when the real opportunity comes along. You've got a little bit here, a little bit there, and when the big move happens, you can't take full advantage of it. I made my first million because I was patient enough to wait for the panic of 1907 and smart enough to have my full capital ready when it came. But I lost fortunes later because I had my money scattered across too many positions when the real opportunities came along. It's like being a boxer who throws 100 weak punches instead of waiting for the opening and throwing one knockout blow. Those 100 punches might make you feel busy, but they won't win you the fight. The fourth sin is trading to recover losses. This is where men destroy themselves. This is where I destroyed myself more than once. You take a loss and it bothers you. It eats at you. You feel like you need to make that money back right away. So instead of stepping back and waiting for the right opportunity, you jump right back in trying to force the market to give you your money back. The market doesn't work that way. The market doesn't care what you lost. It doesn't care what you need. It's going to do what it's going to do, and if you're trading from emotion instead of reason, it's going to take even more of your money. I've seen men lose 10% of their capital, then lose another 20% trying to make back that 10. I've been that man myself. After I made my first fortune, I started trading cotton. I thought I understood it, but I didn't, not really. I took some losses, and instead of admitting I was wrong and stepping away, I kept trading, kept trying to recover, kept digging the hole deeper. By the time I finally stopped, I'd lost everything. The right thing to do when you take a loss is to stop. Step away. Clear your head. Figure out what went wrong. Then wait until you see another opportunity that makes sense. One that has nothing to do with recovering your loss and everything to do with being right about the next move. But that takes patience. And when you're down money, patience is the hardest thing in the world to find. The fifth sin is mistaking activity for progress. Traders today have it worse than I ever did because they can trade anytime they want. They've got these machines in their pockets that let them buy and sell in seconds, from anywhere, at any time of day. And they think this is an advantage, but it's not. It's a curse. Because the easier it is to trade, the more you're going to trade. And the more you trade, the more opportunities you have to be wrong. I made my money by studying the market, identifying the major trends, and then taking positions that I held for weeks or months at a time. Sometimes I'd go days without making a single trade, sometimes weeks. And during those times, I was making more money than all the active traders combined because I was letting my positions work. But today's traders, they feel like they need to do something every day. They check their accounts 10 times, 20 times, 50 times a day. They see little movements and think they need to react. They're trading constantly, and with every trade, they're paying commissions, paying spreads, paying slippage, and most of all, paying the price for being impatient. Activity isn't progress. Most of the time, activity is just expensive motion that takes you nowhere. The real progress happens when you have the discipline to do nothing, to sit in a winning position and let it run, to stay out of the market when there's nothing worth doing. But that doesn't feel like progress. It feels like you're being lazy, and so most traders can't do it. The sixth sin is ignoring the cost of being wrong. Every trade you make has two possible outcomes. You can be right or you can be wrong. When you're right, you make money. When you're wrong, you lose money. Simple as that. But here's what most traders don't understand. The more trades you make, the more times you're going to be wrong. It's mathematics. If you're a good trader, maybe you're right 60% of the time. That means 4 out of every 10 trades you make is a loser. Now, if you're making 10 trades a month, that's 4 losers. If you're making 50 trades a month, that's 20 losers. The more you trade, the more you lose, even if your winning percentage stays the same. And it gets worse. Because your winning percentage doesn't stay the same when you overtrade. It gets worse. Because when you're overtrading, you're taking trades that aren't as good. You're lowering your standards. You're getting in when you shouldn't. So maybe instead of being right 60% of the time, you're right 50% or 40%. And now you're making 50 trades a month with a 40% win rate, and suddenly you're losing money hand over fist. I learned this lesson in wheat. I was trading wheat, and I was good at it. I had a feel for it, but I got greedy. I started taking more positions, trading more frequently, and my win rate dropped. Instead of making the money I should have made, I ended up breaking even, and by the time I paid all the costs, I was behind. Every trade costs you something, even if you win, and the more trades you make, the more those costs add up. You need to trade less, win more, and make those wins big enough to matter. The seventh sin is trading to feel something. This is the one nobody wants to admit, but it's the truth. Most traders aren't trading to make money. They're trading because it makes them feel something. The market gives you excitement. It gives you action. It makes you feel smart when you're winning, and gives you something to blame when you're losing. It's entertainment dressed up as investment. I understand this because I've felt it myself. There's a rush that comes from being in the market, from watching your positions move, from being part of the action. It's intoxicating. But that feeling is expensive. That feeling will bankrupt you if you let it. I knew a fellow once, a good trader, who made $250,000 in 6 months. He had everything he needed, could have stepped away, lived comfortably, never worried about money again. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't give up the feeling of being in the market. He kept trading, kept chasing that feeling, and within a year, he'd lost it all. The market isn't there to entertain you. It isn't there to make you feel good about yourself. The market is there to transfer wealth from the impatient to the patient, from the emotional to the disciplined, from the gamblers to the traders. If you're trading for any reason other than to make money when the odds are in your favor, you're going to lose. Now, I've told you about these 7 sins, and maybe you're thinking, I don't do those things. But you do. Every trader does. I did them, and I was one of the best who ever lived. The question isn't whether you commit these sins. The question is whether you can recognize them in yourself and have the discipline to stop. Because here's the truth I learned after making and losing millions. The market will give you every opportunity to be patient. It will reward patience more generously than any other quality. But it will punish impatience without mercy. The traders who make money, the real money, the kind that lasts, they're not the ones making trades every day. They're not the ones with the most activity or the biggest positions or the most complicated strategies. They're the ones who can sit and wait, who can watch the market day after day, week after week, doing nothing until they see something that makes sense. And then, when that moment comes, they act decisively with full conviction. The rest of the time, they do nothing. I spent years learning this lesson, years making money, losing money, making it back, losing it again, and every time I lost it, it was because I couldn't sit still. I couldn't wait. I had to do something. The market taught me over and over again that doing nothing is often the most profitable thing you can do. But it's the hardest thing in the world to learn because it goes against human nature. We're built to act. We're built to do something when we see opportunity, or when we see danger, or when we just get bored. The market exploits that weakness. It takes your need for action and turns it against you. Every time you trade without a good reason, every time you jump in because you can't stand to wait, every time you overtrade or chase or revenge trade, the market is taking money from your pocket and putting it in the pocket of someone more patient than you. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. The game hasn't changed. The market today works exactly the same way it worked when I was trading. The names are different. The tools are different, but the principles are exactly the same. Money flows from the impatient to the patient, from the emotional to the disciplined, from those who need to trade to those who can wait. You want to know why 90% of traders lose money? It's not because they don't understand the market. It's because they can't control themselves. They trade too much. They act without reason. They confuse motion with progress. They let their emotions guide their decisions, and the market punishes them for it every single time. If you want to be in the 10% who make money, you need to do what 90% won't do. You need to sit still. You need to wait. You need to watch the market day after day, resisting the urge to act until you see something that makes perfect sense. And then you need to act with conviction. The rest of the time, you do nothing. That's the secret. That's what I learned after decades in the market and 3 fortunes made and lost. Patience isn't just a virtue in trading, it's the only thing that matters. Everything else, all the analysis and the patterns and the strategies, they're worthless if you don't have the patience to wait for the right moment to use them. So ask yourself, right now, honestly, are you committing these sins? Are you trading too much? Are you acting without good reason? Are you letting your emotions and your need for action guide your decisions? If you are, stop. Just stop. Close your trading platform and walk away. Give yourself time to think, time to study, time to wait. The market will still be there tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. It's not going anywhere. But your capital, if you keep trading the way you're trading, that's going to disappear. The market is going to take it from you and give it to someone with more patience and more discipline. Don't let that happen. Learn from my mistakes instead of making your own. Wait for the right opportunity. And when it comes, when you see it clearly and you know you're right, then act with everything you've got. But until that moment comes, do nothing. Sit still. Be patient. Because in this game, patience isn't just how you make money, it's how you keep it.